You ever notice how the weight of imaginary conversations can be heavier than real ones? There's this thing that happens in the space between who you are and who you think you're supposed to be. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's just this persistent hum in the background of everything you do. A question that never quite gets answered, but what will they think? And the they in that question? They're everywhere and nowhere at the same time. You're at dinner. Someone asks what you're working on. You feel that split-second calculation happen in your chest before words leave your mouth. Do you tell them the real thing? The project that makes you lose track of time? Or do you give them the version that sounds impressive, the one that requires no explanation, no defense, no uncomfortable silence while they decide whether to take you seriously? Most of us have learned to give the second answer without even thinking about it. We've become fluent in a language we never wanted to speak. The language of acceptable, of expected, of makes sense for someone like you. And somewhere in the translation between what we actually want and what sounds reasonable when we say it out loud, we lose something essential. Not all at once. Just a little bit every single time we choose the safer answer. Here's what nobody tells you about living for other people's approval. You get really, really good at it. It becomes efficient. Automatic. You can scan a room and know exactly which version of yourself to present. You can sense what someone wants to hear before they finish their sentence. You become a master at reading the room, predicting reactions, avoiding the facial expressions that mean you said something wrong. And it works. Until it doesn't. Until you're 40 and you realize you've built an entire life around avoiding disappointment in other people's eyes. Until you catch yourself making a major decision based on what someone who doesn't even like you that much might think. Until you're lying awake at 3 in the morning, and the only person you've been letting down is yourself. The strange thing about humans is that we're wired for this. Not the misery part. The caring part. For most of our existence as a species, being cast out meant death. Not metaphorical death. Actual, literal, slow death. No tribe meant no protection, no shared resources, no warning system when predators came. So our brains evolved to be exquisitely sensitive to social threat, to rejection, to the feeling of being on the outside. When you feel that tightness in your chest before saying something that might be judged, that's not weakness. That's 10,000 generations of ancestors who survived because they knew how to stay in the group's good graces. The problem is, your brain can't tell the difference between being rejected by your ancient tribe and your aunt thinking your career choice is weird. The same alarm system fires. There was research done a couple decades ago where they had people play a simple online game, just tossing a virtual ball back and forth. Except the game was rigged. Midway through, the other players, who were actually just programmed responses, stopped passing the ball to one participant. Just excluded them. Random. Sudden. Meaningless. And you know what happened in the brains of the people being left out? The same regions lit up that process physical pain. Not similar regions. The exact same ones. Your brain experiences social rejection the way it experiences getting punched. The ache you feel when you think about disappointing someone you care about. That's not metaphorical. That's your neural circuitry treating social pain like an injury that needs attending to. Which explains why we care so much. But it doesn't explain why we keep caring about people who aren't even in the room. I've watched people make themselves smaller for years trying to avoid criticism from someone they haven't spoken to in a decade. I've seen talented people sabotage their own dreams because of one comment someone made in high school. Not because that person was right. Not because that person has any authority over their life now. But because that voice got inside and never left. It sets up residence. Becomes part of the internal committee that votes on every decision you make. You want to try something new? Committee votes. For in favor, 8 against. The 8 against all sound like people from your past, but they're not really those people anymore. They're approximations. Ghosts. Fragments of old conversations that your mind has warped and amplified into permanent judges. And here's the thing about these internal judges, they're not even accurate representations of what those real people would say now. They're stuck in time. Frozen in whatever moment you absorbed them. Your dad's voice in your head telling you practical jobs are the only real jobs? He said that 20 years ago. He might not even believe it anymore. But the version of him in your head doesn't update. Doesn't evolve. Just keeps playing the same message on loop. The judges always have the same handful of arguments. That's not realistic. People like us don't do things like that. What makes you so special? You're going to embarrass yourself. And if you listen to them long enough, they start to sound like truth instead of what they actually are, old fears wearing the masks of people you used to know. But even when you know this, even when you intellectually understand that you're arguing with ghosts, the feeling doesn't just evaporate. Because there's another layer to this that makes it especially sticky. You think everyone's watching. They're not. But you think they are. There's a name for this, the spotlight effect. It's the cognitive bias where you overestimate how much other people notice about you. You think you're on stage. You think every mistake is being recorded, every awkward moment filed away in some permanent record of your inadequacy. They did this experiment where they had people wear embarrassing t-shirts into a room full of strangers. Then they asked both groups, the people wearing the shirts and the people in the room. How many people do you think noticed the shirt? The people wearing the embarrassing shirts? They estimated more than half the room noticed. The actual number? About a quarter. And even that quarter probably forgot about it 30 seconds later. You are not the main character in other people's stories. You're barely a supporting character. Most of the time, you're an extra. You show up, you exist in the background, and then they move on with their actual lives, which are full of their own problems, their own obsessions, their own embarrassing t-shirts they're worried about. Think about your own experience. How much time do you spend thinking about other people's mistakes? Their awkward moments? That time your coworker stumbled over a presentation? You probably don't even remember it. You were too busy thinking about your own stumble from last week. But we don't extend that same grace to ourselves. We assume we're the exception. That somehow, uniquely, everyone is paying deep attention to us, cataloging our failures, maintaining detailed files on every time we've been less than perfect. It's exhausting, and it's preventing you from doing the thing you actually want to do. Because here's what that fear costs you. It's not just comfort. It's not just peace of mind. It's the actual substance of your life. Every time you don't speak up in the meeting because you're worried your idea might sound stupid. Every time you don't start the project because you can't guarantee it'll be good enough. Every time you edit yourself into something bland and acceptable instead of interesting and real. Those aren't small moments. Those are your life. You get one run at this. One chance to see what you're actually capable of when you stop performing for an imaginary audience. And you're spending it trying to manage the opinions of people who, if you're being honest, aren't thinking about you that much at all. So what do you do about it? First, you get specific. Not people will judge me. Who specifically? Name them. And then ask yourself, does this person's opinion actually change anything about your reality? Does their approval or disapproval alter your skills, your resources, your potential? Does it change what's actually true? Someone thinking you're making a mistake doesn't mean you are. Someone disapproving of your choices doesn't make those choices wrong. Their discomfort with your life is information about them, not you. There's an old idea, goes back to the Stoics. Whatever people say, they're talking about themselves, not you. Their reaction is filtered through their fears, their limitations, their understanding of what's possible. When someone tells you that you can't do something, they're often just telling you what they couldn't do, or what they were too afraid to try. Second, write down the worst-case scenario. Not the feeling, the actual, practical consequences. If I post this thing online and someone criticizes it, what actually happens? You feel bad for a few hours? A day? Then what? Does your life fall apart? Do you lose everything? Or do you just feel uncomfortable and then move on? Most of what we're afraid of is temporary discomfort. We've just gotten so good at avoiding it that we've forgotten we can survive it. Third, treat this like a muscle. Exposure therapy isn't just for phobias. You can practice being judged. Put yourself in small situations where someone might have an opinion. Share something minor. Have a slightly controversial take. Disagree in a low-stakes conversation. Notice that the world doesn't end. Notice that even when people do judge you, even when they do think you're wrong, you're still here, still breathing, still capable of doing the next thing. You build tolerance the way you build any capacity, gradually, with repetition, with the understanding that discomfort isn't danger. And fourth, this one's important, flip the question. Instead of what will they think, ask what will I think of myself if I don't do this? Because that's the voice that's actually going to be with you. Not theirs. Yours. 10 years from now, you're not going to remember that your cousin thought your career change was risky. But you will remember whether you let that stop you. You will remember whether you chose the life you actually wanted or the one that was easiest to explain at family dinners. But here's the deeper work, figuring out what you actually value. Not what you're supposed to value. Not what sounds good when you say it. What actually matters to you when no one's watching. Because a lot of this people-pleasing, this constant calculation of acceptability, it comes from being disconnected from your own compass. When you don't know what you stand for, you'll fall for anything. You'll chase approval because you don't have anything more solid to chase. So you have to do the boring, uncomfortable work of figuring out your non-negotiables. What matters to you when the lights are off and the performance is over? What would you do if no one ever knew? What would you build if failure was private? Make a list. Actual pen, actual paper. The things that make you feel alive. Not accomplished. Not impressive. Alive. The activities where time disappears. The conversations that leave you energized instead of drained. The projects you think about in the shower. Then look at your actual days. How much of your time goes to those things? How much goes to maintenance? To obligation? To avoiding someone else's disapproval? You don't have to blow up your life. You don't have to quit your job and move to Bali and find yourself. Just start small. One thing per day that's aligned with what you actually value. One conversation where you say what you really think. 1 hour spent on the project that feels too personal to share. See what happens. Most likely, nothing catastrophic. Most likely, the people whose opinions you've been managing don't even notice. And the ones who do notice? Some of them will think it's weird. Some will be threatened by the fact that you're changing. Some will try to pull you back into the old pattern because your growth makes them uncomfortable about their own stagnation. Let them be uncomfortable. Their comfort is not your responsibility. Your life is. And here's what you'll discover if you keep going. The people whose opinions actually matter, the ones who see you, who want good things for you, who respect your autonomy, those people don't need you to be smaller. They're not cheering for the contained, acceptable version. They're waiting for you to stop performing and start being. The rest? They were never really seeing you anyway. They were seeing what they needed you to be to make sense of their own choices. You're not losing their approval. You never really had it. You just had their tolerance of the version of you that didn't challenge anything. There's grief in that. Realizing that some people in your life don't actually want you to grow. That some relationships were built on you staying the same. That becoming who you're meant to be might mean disappointing people you care about. But the alternative is spending your entire life as a character in someone else's story. A supporting role in your own existence. And you don't get a second take. You don't get to run this again with more courage. This is it. The only version. The one where you either decide that your own respect for yourself matters more than their comfort, or you don't. Most people don't. That's not a judgment. It's just true. Most people make it to the end having lived a life that was perfectly acceptable to everyone except themselves. They followed the path, checked the boxes, made the sensible choices, avoided the awkward conversations, and when they're alone with themselves at the end, they don't think about all the approval they earned. They think about the things they didn't try, the person they didn't become, the life they didn't risk. You don't have to be most people. You can be the person who decides that being judged is a price worth paying for being real. That temporary discomfort is better than permanent regret. That the opinions of people who don't know you, don't pay your bills, and won't remember this moment in a month, those opinions are just noise. And noise can't hurt you unless you decide it can. So what's the thing you're not doing because you're worried what they'll think? What's the version of your life you're not building because it doesn't fit the template? What would you start today if you knew that nobody's opinion could actually stop you? Because they can't. That's the secret. They never could. The only thing stopping you is your belief that their judgment matters more than your own truth. It doesn't. It never did. Start anyway.